Okay, so now we're going to talk about unit conversions. And we're going to start with the easiest type of unit conversions, which is the metric prefixes. We've kind of already done a little bit of this by using this like decimal bouncing way. This way is a little, this way that we're going to learn is a little bit more kind of like broadly applicable, okay? So we're going to take our same metric prefix chart here. And again, when we saw this chart to begin with, we were talking about what it told us. Well, really what it's saying is 1 kilo whatever, let's say gram as we're saying here, 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams, or 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters, or 1 kiloseconds is equal to 1,000 seconds. Whatever you want to put in there. That's what this chart is telling us, right? So again, just to use the grams, because that's what I'm using over here, 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. That's what information you get from this chart. Likewise, 1 millimeter is equal to 0.001 meters, right? You can fill this in for any unit of measurement and for any one of these prefixes, okay? So that's this piece of information here that we've gotten, right? This chart tells us that 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. Now, we're going to take this information and put it into a fraction. 1 kilogram over 1,000 grams. Or you can flip it around, 1,000 grams over 1 kilogram. Okay? These are what we call conversion factors. Okay, these fractions we can use in math really easily. All right, so let's see how we do this. This will allow us to convert from grams to kilograms or kilograms to grams. So let's say I wanted to go from 5,490 grams to kilograms. What I'm going to do is start with this initial measurement, this 5,490 grams. And then I'm going to use one of these conversion factors. So I have these two conversion factors here that go from grams to kilograms. How do I know which one to use? Well, I want my units to cancel out, right? So this is going to be a multiplication problem. I'm going to put one of these conversion factors and multiply it by my original number. I want to make sure that since grams are at the top in my original measurement, I'm going to use the conversion factor that has grams on the bottom to 1 kilogram. Because then when I punch this, so first of all, I'm going to punch this into my calculator, 5,490 divided by 1,000, and I'm going to get 5.49. I'm not going to include that 0 because it's not a significant digit, right? I only had, this was the last significant digit over here. So I want to make sure that I have the same sig figs in both numbers. And then for units, this is kind of the nice thing about this, how this works out, these conversion factors, is you can tell that you're doing it correctly because your units should all cancel out and you'll be left with what you want, which was in this case, kilograms, right? Because over here I have grams on top and down here I have grams on bottom. Those will cancel each other out and I'm left with kilograms. Okay, so 5,490 grams is the same thing as 5.49 kilograms. Okay, well, what if I wanted to go the other direction? I wanted to go from kilograms to grams. I would again start with my original measurement. But now when I'm choosing my conversion factor, I'm going to make sure to pick the one that has kilograms on the bottom. So kilograms will cancel out. So I'm going to use that second one where 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. Again, just kind of for starters, I can punch that into my calculator. I'm going to get 95. And then I'm going to go back and make sure my units cancel. Kilogram cancels cancels kilogram, and I'm left with grams, 95 grams. And again, can kind of double check. I got 2 sig figs in my initial measurement and 2 sig figs in my final measurement. Okay, so that's how this, you can convert between, you know, grams and kilograms, meters and millimeters, micrograms and grams, all those sorts of things, nanoseconds and seconds, all that sort of stuff. You first look at your chart. So let's actually do another one real quick. First, I'm going to look at my chart. Let's do nano. Right? If I wanted to go from seconds to nanoseconds, I would look at my chart. This is the same thing as saying 1 nanosecond equals this many seconds. It might even be more convenient because this number is so crazy to use the exponent form, right? So from my chart, I got 1 nanosecond equals 10 to the negative 9 seconds. And from here, I'm going to create one of those conversion factors. 1 nanosecond over 10 to the negative 9 seconds, or 10 to the negative 9 seconds over 1 nanosecond. Either one of those can be used to convert either from nanoseconds to seconds or seconds to nanoseconds. So depending which direction you want to go, you'll use one of those 2 conversion factors, right? But the important thing is knowing how to get them from this little chart here. Okay, that's an important skill that we're going to need to have. Now, let's say that we wanted to go from giga, you know, I don't know, gigagrams to decigrams, right? We wanted to go from one metric prefix to the other one. Okay, I'm going to show you guys a shortcut on how to do that. So again, this would be the idea, we would be trying to go from, say, gigagrams to decigrams. How do we get a conversion factor for that? Okay, so first of all, what we're going to do is follow these 4 steps, these 4 instructions here. Oh, I guess I used meters, so I'll be consistent. Gigameters and decimeters. First step is find your prefix. So giga, deci. I'm going to take the exponent. For giga, it's 10 to the 9. For deci, it's 10 to the negative 1. And then I'm going to flip the sign of the exponent. Okay, so this will become 10 to the negative 9, and this would become 10 to the positive 1. Then I can stack them, and that will be my conversion factor. So 10 to the negative 9 gigameters is equal to 10 to the 1 decimeters, or just like before, I can flip those around, get the inverse. Okay, so if we want to know how to convert from one metric prefix to the other, this is a great shortcut on how to do that. You're going to find it on the chart, take that exponent, but then flip the sign of that exponent. Okay, so let's just do another one. How would I go from millimeters to nanometers? Well, I'm going to find my prefix milli and nano. I'm going to take the exponent for each. Oops. So for milli, it's 10 to the negative 3. For nano, it's 10 to the negative 9. I'm going to flip the sign of the exponent, 10 to the 3, 10 to the 9. And from there, I can create my conversion factor that there are 10 to the 3 millimeters in 10 to the 9 nanometers. All right, so that would help me convert from one to the other, or I can take the same thing and just flip it upside down. Okay, but those would be the 2 conversion factors that I would use to go from millimeters to nanometers. Okay, so if we want to do just an actual problem here, let's say I have 4 million millimeters, and I want to, 4 million nanometers, and I want to convert that to millimeters, I would take my 4 million nanometers, whoops. I'm going to multiply it by one of these two conversion factors. Which one would I use? The one on the left or the one on the right? Remember, I need my nanometers to cancel. So I'm going to use the one on the left because that has nanometers on the bottom. So 10 to the 9 nanometers to 10 to the 3 millimeters. Okay, punch that into your calculator and you would get 4. Going through and making sure my units cancel out, nanometers cancel out, and I'm left with millimeters. I can again kind of double check that I got 1 sig fig on this side and 1 sig fig on this side. So this would be my final answer there. Okay, but this is how we can easily convert between any of these metric prefix conversions. All right. So yeah, let's do a few examples. And actually, for this last one, let's go from microliters to milliliters. So we practice our, actually, let me just, so we practice that skill. From microliters to milliliters. Okay, so for the first one, we're gonna go from meters to kilometers, starting out with 4.5 times 10 to the 5th meters. Again, we have our two prefixes, or our two conversion factors over here. Let me get rid of this stuff. But instead of talking about kilograms and grams, we basically got the same thing, but we're going from meters to kilometers. So I'm going to use one of these two conversion factors here. Again, I want to go from meters to kilometers. So I'm going to want to use this one so that my meters are on the bottom and cancel out. So I have 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. And again, the important part is make sure that you understand how I got this conversion factor from this chart over here, right? Because this is what it's saying is 1 well, again, instead of kilograms, we're talking about kilometers, is equal to 1,000 meters. So I took that 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters, and I stacked those two quantities on top of each other to create a conversion factor. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and plug this into my calculator. What's going to happen is my calculator is going to spit out 450. I'm going to make sure that my units cancel out and I'm left with kilometers. And then again, double check that I have 2 sig figs over here and 2 sig figs over here. Awesome. Going from milligrams to grams, I have 3.78 times 10 to the 6 milligrams, and I want to go to grams. So let's look at our table. Get rid of all of my little markings. I go to milli, and what this is saying is that 1 milligram is equal to 0.001 grams. So I'm going to use that information to create a conversion factor. 1 milligrams over 0.001 grams, or 0.001 grams over 1 milligram. And for this particular problem, I'm trying to convert from milligrams to grams, right? So which one of these factors do I use? Should be the one with milligrams on the bottom, so that will cancel out. punch that into my calculator. Move this over. Okay, this is the number that it spits out. I'm going to go through. Milligrams will cancel, so I'm left with grams, which is what I wanted. And then lastly, just want to check that I have 3 sig figs over here, so I should have 3 over here. Okay. All right, now we are going to go from microliter to milliliter. So again, I'm going to start with my 8.22 times 10 to the 8. Oh, okay. That's actually going to be a really tiny number. Let's instead do from microliters to kiloliters. Okay, I'm going to have 8.22 times 10 to the 8 microliters. Now I need to build a conversion factor that takes me from micro to kilo. So let's go back and remember how we did this again. I'm going to just erase all these. Trying to go from micro to kilo. So I'm going to go to each metric prefix, micro and kilo. I'm going to grab their exponent form. So this is 10 to the 3, and this one's 10 to the -6. And then I'm going to flip the sign. So this is 10 to the -3, and this is 10 to the +6. And that can allow me to build my conversion factor. 10 to the -3 kiloliters is equal to 10 to the 6th microliters. Okay, or could sort of from the same logic get the reverse. However, since I'm trying to go from microliters to kiloliters, this is the one I would want to use. So times 10 to the -3 kiloliters over 10 to the 6 microliters. I'm going to punch that into my calculator, and I'm going to get 0.822. Oops, leave myself some room for units. Microliters cancel out, and I'm left with kiloliters. And again, just to double check, I have the right number of sig figs in both measurements. Okay, so those are our metric prefix unit conversions.